Super Bowl 59 is right around the corner. Will the Chiefs go and make history and complete the first ever three-peat in the Super Bowl era? Or will the Philadelphia Eagles get a measure of revenge and redeem themselves after losing to this same team 2 years ago? Let's start with the latter. Philly, we already know what the game plan should be, and that needs to be feeding Saquon the ball and then utilizing Jalen Hurts when necessary. Now, credit to them, they stayed with the run all season long, and they're going to have to do it in this game because I believe controlling time of possession will be key to winning this football game. You're going against the best quarterback in the league right now, and if you can control that time of possession through running the football and having these long sustaining drives, then that not only bolsters your chances, but it limits the chances that Patrick Mahomes will have of having a football and changing the trajectory of this game. With that being said, when you hold on to the football for a long period of time, it becomes more difficult to maximize that possession and protect the football. And if the Eagles can do both of those things, I like their chances. Protecting the football. We saw in their last Super Bowl encounter, that strip sack that led to a scoop and score by Kansas City was one of the difference makers in that game. This year, the Eagles have to protect the football. Jalen Hurts, that means you can't sit in the pocket and hold on to the football for longer than you need to. And that plays into maximizing possessions because Jalen Hurts throughout the course of the season and even going back to that Rams game, you saw that when he held on to the ball for too long, it led to him getting sacked and taking them out of field goal range. You can't do that in this game because every point will be crucial. And to further my point on the Eagles having to maximize their possessions, you go back to the passing game. There's been questions around that and whether or not they can sustain it if teams are fortunate enough to slow down Saquon. Well, regardless of what happens with Saquon, that unit has to play a clean game, meaning there has to be little to no drops, along with limited penalties. Can Jalen Hurts show that version that we saw of him 2 years ago? Because that guy, he went bar for bar with Patrick Mahomes, and he damn near almost beat him. Combine that level of production with Saquon and how he's been playing this whole entire year, then that makes it even more difficult for KC to knock them off. Onto that Eagles defense. We already know that that's the number one defense in all of football right now. They have an elite pass defense along with a stingy run defense. There will be two important tasks for this defense come Sunday. One, you have to get after this Kansas City O-line. Jalen Carter, Montez Sweat, both of them are elite at creating and generating pressure. However, when you look at the stats, this Eagles team doesn't necessarily get a ton of sacks. They rank 15th in the regular season. However, that doesn't indicate the amount of disruption that this defense is able to cause, and that's going to have to continue against Mahomes. Secondly, they have to take away Travis Kelce. And I said this back in the AFC title game, and the Bills technically did that, yet the Chiefs still found a way to win this game. I still believe that if you could take away Travis Kelce, that gives you a better chance of knocking off this dynasty. When I look at the Eagles secondary, it's money, and they will be able to match up with all those playmakers. What makes Travis Kelce so special is that if you're playing a zone, he can still find a way to find a gap and get open. If you're playing man, he's still able to create separation. It will be interesting because under Vic Fangio, they run a lot of match coverage, which is just essentially a combination of man and zone, whereas some areas you're going to have defenders in a zone look, whereas in the other area, you're going to have those defenders in a man look. The key detail to note for those Eagle defenders is going to be making sure that they maintain eyes and presence on Travis Kelce, because we've seen time and time again that duo of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce can burn you. Onto the Kansas City Chiefs. I expect Patrick Mahomes to meet the moment as he always does in the Super Bowl. However, I am concerned about the turnovers because in all of his appearances, he has a combination of 5. I think with this Eagles defense, you got to be careful because it's not necessarily how many turnovers you have, it's when you have those turnovers. So for Mahomes, I believe that's something to watch out for on Sunday. Overall, from a team perspective, though, I will say in their lone loss during this Patrick Mahomes dynasty era, it came to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because that defense in Tampa was able to control the line of scrimmage, and that Eagles front seven has the capabilities of doing that same thing. Going back to the AFC title game, the O-line played much better compared to how they had the whole entire season. However, this is an Eagles defense that's better at all 3 levels. As I've already mentioned, the Eagles have an elite pass rush and run defense. So if I had to guess on how the Chiefs can counter that, it's going to come down to having some success in the run game. I know Pacheco hasn't looked the best since coming back from injury. Kareem Hunt's really giving them a spark, so I expect them to roll with Kareem Hunt. And then also, I expect Andy Reid to go to a higher tempo. That way, you can tire out that pass rush. With all that being said, it's ultimately going to come down to whether or not that Kansas City O-line can step up and play the games of their lives. Much like Philly, I believe KC can benefit from controlling time of possession as well. That way you counter Saquon by giving him less possessions to work with. It's important to note that throughout their runs, they've been able to have these 12 to 15 play, 6 to 8 minute drives. So I believe that is possible in this game, even against the number one defense. But again, it's going to be intriguing to see what Andy Reid does, because I think wherever the game plan is there, may influence my thought process on whether or not they will or won't control time of possession. And then I already touched on this part while covering the Eagles side of things. KC is going to need their other receivers. Worthy and Hollywood Brown, they're going to have to connect with Mahomes on those big explosive plays. D-Hop, Juju, along with the crew, when necessary, you're going to have to make sure you step up, because drops could be crucial in determining whether or not who wins or loses this game. The goal for KC is to force Philly to play left-handed, meaning you don't want Saquon dictating the outcome of this game. Because if you can slow him down, you put this Philadelphia Eagles offense into more difficult third downs. They have you at your mercy if they're able to get you into these third and manageable downs. They're either going to give the ball to Saquon or they're going to run the tush push. Now, back in the second half of the AFC title game, James Cook had his way with that defense. Can that continue in this game? Because if that happens, Spags is not going to be able to use his pressure packages, and that eliminates creating pressure on Jalen Hurts and creating potential takeaway opportunities. I'll address the secondary for KC. I have confidence in them. I think going against A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, those are two of the best receivers in the game right now. So you're not necessarily going to just have your way against them. I think it'll be 50-50, maybe 70, or no, maybe 60-40, leaning more towards the Eagle receivers. When it matters most, I believe those KC defenders are going to step up and make plays. On to the official Dom pick of Super Bowl 59. I could go either way. I want to see a three-peat. I want to see Saquon get himself a ring. However, I have to go with my gut. And my gut was telling me to stick with my preseason prediction that the Kansas City Chiefs will complete the three-peat. Mahomes and KC are just unstoppable. When they get to the Super Bowl, you could be up 10. We've seen San Fran go up 10 twice against them, and yet you're never really fully in control. This team knows how to win. They know how to win one-score games, and I think that will show up here. Philadelphia is going to have to be perfect in all three phases of the field. Because the Eagles have played so well this year, I don't believe it's outside the realms that they play a near-perfect game, but I believe it is asking a lot of them. It's just the greatness of this Chiefs dynasty. But the difference maker is the greatness and championship DNA of that defense. That defense will show up, and they will make gotta have it plays in crucial moments. We see them do that against San Fran last year. CMC ran all over the league, but then when it came to the Super Bowl, they slowed them down. And I'm not saying that they're going to for sure slow down Saquon, because Saquon's been a monster all season long. But I do believe something similar will happen in this game.